So I'm basically just sitting there like, okay, I'm going to win the game
Yeah.
as long as you let me untap. You have 2 cards in hand. I'm at 4, so Cruxa doesn't kill me.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got? And then Bone Crusher targeting me.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh no,
No.
Stomp targeting me. The other card is also Stomp.
Double
Let it
stomped
resolve.
out.
Stomp.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're the Arena Regulars. Basically, we talk about Magic, we drink beer. That's
Come
what
join us for
Yeah.
a good time.
So basically today, the deck Jeff was just talking about, we built something special for Halloween. We built a spooky themed deck. It's all spooky cards.
All the scariest cards we could find.
I mean, they kind of work together for the most part. We tuned it
Yeah.
up a little bit. So we'll talk about that, kind of how it played out in the wild. And then also we had an event this last weekend, the league weekend. We'll kind of recap a little bit and then talk about Arena Open that's coming up.
Right.
But before we do that, Jeff, what's on tap?
So today I brought Bone Shaker, and as you know, Halloween is coming up, and Bone Shaker is a beer by Amsterdam Brewery. It's an IPA, 7.1%, very scary.
Yeah.
But the main thing is the art is a skeleton riding a bicycle on the front of the can, so I figured, hey, that's pretty Halloween-y.
That's Halloween-y. Sure is. I brought from Flying Monkeys their Paranormal Imperial Pumpkin Ale. It is a whopping 10% alcohol. Whew, I can already feel it coming on
I thought my
strong.
7.1 was scary.
Yeah, I know. 10 is much scarier than that. But it basically tastes like pumpkins and pumpkin pie. It is quite delicious, but also I think it's quite sneaky.
Okay,
It's sneaky and spooky.
right. I'm excited to try it.
We do have some Magic news for Arena this week. There's an FNM that was Momir, which is a favorite format for a lot of people. Basically, do you know
it
how it
started
works?
on Magic Online.
Oh, did it start on Magic
I
Online?
think so. That's where I first heard of it. But basically, your deck is all lands, and then you can play a land as a spell, and you just get a random spell of whatever converted mana cost. So if I tap 5 lands and I discard a land, now it'll just give me a random 5-drop from Arena.
Yep.
And you just try to win by...
Randomness.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the best random cards.
It can be pretty interesting, though, because after you play it a few times, you'll start to see what comes up more often than not. Because they do kind of, it seems like they have a list. Anyway.
You'll start to learn which CMCs aren't really worth discarding a card
Yeah.
for because the variance is too high, and which ones, maybe all the 5-drops are just awesome, so you always do 5, something like that.
Yeah, and 2-for-1ing is really important because you can't really do a lot. Anyway, there was some bug issues. I didn't actually experience it myself, but I saw on Twitter they had to shut it down only within a few hours of it being on. Something where like any card could be escaped or something. It's very confusing.
Oh, that's a weird bug.
Some weird stuff was going on with like some escape cards, so they had to shut it down. They changed it to the just play anything thing. But we did have a festival. It was Cascade Singleton. There were a bunch of like card styles that you could win, and Cascade is just whenever you play a spell, then you get a non-land spell off the top of your deck that costs 1 less CMC than the one you played.
Right.
So most people were just playing just ramp, because when your ramp spell turns into a creature, it's really good.
Isn't that basically just the cards they've been printing lately?
Well, I mean, yeah, a little bit. Also, I was really excited about this, but they brought Old Borderlands to Arena.
Yeah.
This is huge for me.
I've wanted just old border promos, even in paper, but on Arena, basically since I started playing. And yeah, let's start with lands. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. So I immediately just snapped up a few for myself.
Yeah. I haven't bought mine yet. Trying to save up my gems for the Arena Open this weekend, like we'll talk about later. But
Yeah, I definitely just kind of blew some straight away because I was like, I got to play these.
yeah.
But yeah.
How do you find, can you distinguish between them? That's the main complaint I'm hearing, is that sometimes it's hard to tell right away if it's a swamp or an island when it's on the
I haven't had a hard time. Though I picked the first one, which has like the island is like a clock tower kind of in this area. Mm-hmm. It seems to be fine. I haven't had a really big problem with it.
Okay. That's the only sort of negativity I've seen surrounding these.
At first, I was a little bit worried about it because they do kind of have like the brown borders on them. But no, I haven't had a problem. I haven't tapped lands incorrectly, so
Not yet.
Not
well,
yet.
not for that reason.
yeah. Well, also Arena just like does it for me, so it's not the problem. But yeah, how'd your week go in Arena? What were you doing?
I had a great time. I was playing the spooky deck we're going to talk
Spooky
about
deck.
in standard a little bit, and I actually did some drafts. So got back on the drafting horse just a
Nice.
little bit. How about you?
Yeah, I was drafting a lot of Eldraine just because I'm trying to get a bunch of those rares that I didn't get.
Right.
And then, of course, the Spooky deck and all the versions of it. Mm-hmm. But now let's talk about it. Spooky deck. What's a Spooky deck? Why did we do this? What's going on? We wanted to do a deck tech of something. Mm-hmm. And we thought, well, it's Halloween this week. Let's just build something kind of spooky for fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
So this deck isn't supposed to be sort of hyper competitive. It's not the deck that we give you and you get to Mythic for the first time on it.
Absolutely not.
It's also not supposed to be a budget deck,
Yeah.
because there's actually quite a few rares in here.
There are quite a few rares, but just the spooky ones.
But it is meant to be a functional deck. So it's meant to have enough lands and have a good enough curve and have a general game plan so that you can actually play and conceivably win a game of Magic.
You do have a game plan. You do try to do something, kind of one thing. And basically, Eerie Ultimatum is what we decided was the spookiest. Eerie. Ooh, eerie. So let me find that here. So Eerie Ultimatum is white, white, black, 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 green, green for a sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. So a lot of the deck is just kind of dump stuff in the yard and bring it back later.
Right. And the stuff we're dumping in is all just the spookiest art that we could find.
Exactly. And some of them, not great cards, but spooky.
So before we get into the nitty gritty of the deck, if you want to follow along at home, you can find this deck list on any of our social media pages, so Twitter or Instagram, or it's on MTG Goldfish. I assume they'll be able to find that link somewhere.
Yeah, and we're at Arena Regulars on all those platforms, if you can find us.
Yeah, so why don't we just talk about some of our favorite inclusions in the deck. The deck's a whole lot of 1 and 2 of, so going through card by card would take too long.
Mm-hmm. It takes way too long.
So what are some cards you included in this bad boy?
Well, first, we are thinking about spooky stuff. What are spooky things that are in Magic?
Right.
Obviously, we decided to go Abzan because of Eerie. So we have spooky things. So we have spiders.
Right.
We have snakes. We have some zombies. We have some worms. We also decided, I think one of the most important ones that ended up coming a little bit later was Sir Conrad the Grim.
Right.
Because he looks like kind of like the Headless Horseman or like Sleepy Hollow.
Right.
Because he's on this horse that's like neighing and he's holding like a shrunken head thing that's glowing. It's really spooky. It has very much like you're going to see him in the woods when you're trick-or-treating kind of feel.
Yeah, we got some sort of ghost type stuff. Anything that says spirit, right?
Yeah,
It's
some
Magic's
spirits.
version of a ghost. And that's how Ugin the spirit dragon made his way
Yeah,
in.
because he's a ghost.
Yeah, he's a ghost dragon. That's pretty scary.
That's very spooky. I'd be like, well, first of all, it's a dragon.
Yeah.
And then it's a ghost dragon. That's super spooky.
And Agadeem's Awakening, I was thinking in this same vibe, because it kind of shows like some sort of crypt and all the ghosts from the Undercrypt are just breaking free all at once.
Absolutely. I do think one of the first cards I thought about when we were doing this was Revenge of Ravens, because I remember thinking how horrifying that card was when I opened it at the pre-release.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. It's just a dude with blood coming, like he's holding his face and there's blood running down his face with just ravens all over the place.
His eyes have been pecked out by ravens. I don't know what he did to those ravens to warrant this revenge.
Probably nothing. I've seen the birds and it was absolutely nothing. They just decided to be crazy and then eventually decided not to.
So we have some awards to give out here.
Oh, yes.
So we had decided to award a spooky creature, a spooky spell, a spooky enchantment, and even a spooky land. So we're just going to run through our favorite inclusions for you guys.
Yeah, how about you start us off?
Okay, so first is the Spooky Creature Award. For me, this had to go, no question, to Skyclave Shade. But here I want the asterisk that we need the promo version.
This is the promo Skyclave Shade, and you actually get this promo by doing the Cascade Singleton Festival that was happening this week.
So if you did that, you have this promo, and it's just this total purple ghost in front of a moon thing. It's just perfect.
It's like all like swirly, and it is it just looks otherworldly. It's so strange, but like
right. The art style just fits perfectly.
the color palette, everything. Definitely something I want in front of my house, like scaring kids one day.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Some
Yeah.
sort of lawn's ghost,
Yeah, a lawn ghost. Then of course our spooky spell is Eerie Ultimatum because it's eerie.
Yeah, I mean there was no real choice here.
Yeah, how do you
the whole
not?
deck's built around how spooky this card is.
Yeah, and just look at it once again. Purple. I think purple is just a spooky color.
I'm thinking that too.
A lot of people say it's like a royal color, but I think it's just
starting to see that theme, that
It's
trend. It's in a
super
lot of the art
spooky.
here. And for enchantment, I think we already kind of mentioned.
we kind of covered this already,
Yeah.
but Revenge of Ravens, of
Right.
course.
And the land, I was actually thinking, you wrote this in the show notes, but I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking the same thing. It just seems to have to go to Temple of Malady.
Absolutely. I didn't really think about this until we were trying to put this together, but it does. Like normally, I'm like temples, not gonna play them. Like I don't even search them up. I'm like, I'm probably never gonna play this. I don't really
Right.
play decks that want to have them. I'm like, they're
All aggro.
yeah. I'm usually much faster than that, so I'm like, I don't want to play this. But we had to put it in, especially just the style that this deck wants to play. It needs it, and also, it's just super spooky.
Yeah.
What is that? Like there's some sort of potion in this big bowl in the middle of this Colosseum thing.
It looks like some sort of sacrifice is about to go down.
Oh
here.
yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to point out there are a couple cards that I picked specifically because the animations were the spooky thing.
Right.
So Fiend Artisan, that card, it's like this lizard nightmare guy.
Oh yeah.
And when you play it, he comes onto the field and he looks at you and he's holding a voodoo doll and he just rips the head off the doll.
Jeez.
It's like this really weird. I don't know. I don't think I played with this card before, and I was like, oh, that's kind of
Oh,
spooky.
I've played a lot with this card.
I played it. I was like, oh my god, yes, this is going in
That's
the
gotta
deck.
go in.
Absolutely.
And the other one was Timuret, right?
Yeah,
So when Timuret comes into play, you just have his face kind of screaming at you.
that is
And it
always.
takes up the whole battlefield.
That's always been just haunting no matter what. So
Yeah.
definitely Timuret was quickly on the list of cards that needed to be added.
Yeah. And we should mention the sideboard here. This wasn't a sideboard designed for traditional sideboard
No,
purposes.
we weren't really using any of the cards in the sideboard.
This is really just a runner-up list.
It's just spooky cards that we couldn't fit in the actual deck, so they're just in the sideboard.
And then the cards we mentioned that, really exceeded our expectations of spookiness, they got a second or third copy added to the sideboard.
Yeah. Just some extra
As a
spook.
badge of honor.
That's why Skyclave Shade has an extra copy in there.
And Revenge of Ravens you'll find
Yep.
in the sideboard as well.
There's another one as well. Though I still think Deafening Silence is a white card. And so, of course, you're looking for spooky cards. White cards are not going to be that spooky. But there are a few,
Mostly
besides
black,
just the
but
spirits.
yeah.
Most of them are going to be black. You have some green ones that are kind of Golgari stuff. But Deafening Silence is absolutely spooky. It's just like three dudes screaming with light coming out of their mouths.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like there's like almost blood on the wall in the background, and their faces are purpley, so they could totally be dead. I don't know.
And in a similar vein, Peer into the Abyss in the sideboard. God, that is
Oh
creepy.
my god. I think I always forget about that card, but it's just like someone's coming out of their own head through their mouth
In every
over and over
the
again.
eyes.
And their eyes.
Yeah.
Oh god.
That's a weird one.
All sweaty. I think it's an elf. It's an elf going through its own face and
Something
eyes.
really bad is happening. to that.
They looked into the
You
abyss.
do not want to be peering into the abyss.
No, don't look into the abyss. It's going to be really bad for you. That might be what's happening to the guy in Revenge of Ravens, actually.
Right.
So that's the beginning of the peer into the abyss. So it's
Now we have the full story.
yeah, the full story. So your eyes start to bleed, and then you open your mouth and your eyes, and your head comes through all of those holes.
Do not piss off these ravens.
Yeah. Don't look into the abyss, or the ravens will come.
And I guess the last notable sideboard card, maybe because it's a bit of an oddball, is Hushbringer. This card just unnerves me for some reason. The art, maybe it's the lips, and then the lips floating around her like a hula hoop.
Yeah.
I just think this card always made me
It is strange. I was thinking about it because you had mentioned it, and I hadn't really I don't think it's that. I think it's really cool, and I hadn't really thought it was spooky. But the more you start
You
to
played it.
yeah, I play it all the time. So, but the more you start to kind of talk about it, I was thinking maybe this is like, vampires have that ability to like seduce people,
Right.
and they kind of just like their faces just go just dead, and they're just like, I don't know, getting entranced with something. And I was thinking this could be what they're envisioning is this weird fairy thing with lips all around.
Flying
Yeah. And they're just like, I don't know what's happening. And then they get bitten. I mean,
yeah, it does have a bit of that weird,
it's very
unnerving, seductive.
Yeah,
vibe
you're in a dreamland. It's not real life, something like that. But anyway, that's kind of the deck. That's why we built it. That's how it came about. We had some earlier versions. For a while, we had just a single copy of Terror of the Peaks in there,
Right.
because he terrorizes peaks.
Yeah, it's a terror.
But and just like no way to actually cast it.
No red sources.
So yeah,
at
so
all. I guess we have Lotus Cobra. So
so
if
technically
you Fabled Passage.
Yes, if you have a Lotus Cobra and you Fable Passage, you could get 2 red mana to play it. But most of the time, it's just in the graveyard is what you're hoping, and you just bring it out and kill somebody instantly. But we ended up taking it out just because I think the flavor didn't work as well, and also it just kept getting stuck in my hand.
Right.
So I was like, get this out of here.
I think Massacre Worm took that one.
Yeah, so we played Massacre Worm instead because it's it's a freaky teethy.
It's also pretty scary.
It's a teethy worm.
But you know what? I had a lot of fun building this deck, working
Yeah.
on it. It was just a great time. So I would encourage anyone to just, sometimes you don't have to build the best deck. Just have fun building the decks.
Also, it was pretty fun because I hadn't really built a deck with somebody else before.
Right.
So we got to just kind of keep sending deck lists back and forth to be like, oh, this, or maybe, oh, this card's really spooky, or put this in, or take this out, or
Yeah,
all
that
these
was
kinds
fun.
of things. So that was really enjoyable to me. And so go check it out. If you have the cards, I'd say build it, take it out, tell us if it works or not, or tell us how horrible it is, or non-spooky. Actually, I don't think it can be non-spooky because that's literally the only thing we wanted to do was make it spooky.
But you know what? Maybe there are some spooky cards that we missed.
That's true.
Let us know.
Yeah, tell us if we missed any spooky cards in our list. Please, that would be great so we can make it better for next year, I guess. 2021
Well, I'm sure
version.
there are other themes that'll come out before then. So.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see if there's any more cards to add to the spooky deck. I would not recommend crafting any wild cards for this deck.
Yeah. Don't craft it with the expectation of climbing the ladder. Let's
Absolutely
put it that
not.
way.
Don't do that. But it's definitely fun to play.
It was a ton of fun to build. So.
Absolutely. I think it was more. I mean, it's more fun to build than it was to play.
But that's half the fun in Magic is the deck building. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. I do think I've been slowly. I envisioned myself always as like a deck builder. I guess when I was a kid or I was playing Magic, I was like, you know what? Building decks is what I really like to do. I think the older I got, the more I realized that I'm not extremely great at it. And maybe I just like other people. I like more help. And this was a great way of being like, how do you build a deck?
Right. Yeah.
How does this work? Because you definitely helped out with the mana base quite a bit. Because mine was not the best.
It was fine.
It was fine.
Just I think too few lands for me. I like
Yeah.
to play a lot of lands.
Jeff does like playing extra lands. If you take a deck list, what's the first thing you're gonna do to it?
Cut a card and add a land.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the modal double face cards are like your favorite.
Oh, I love them. Yeah. We're at 28 lands in this deck, so. And I kind of wanted to go more, but we had to fit all the spooky stuff in.
We needed all the spooky things, so that's what you get.
Yeah.
But with that, Jeff, how's your beer doing?
It's done.
It's done. All right. I think we need a beer break. All right.
Okay, what do I got here?
You got something.
Paranormal Imperial Pumpkin Ale.
Yeah, 10%.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome. I love a bone shaker, so this is going to be just delightful. 7.1. I'm down for it.
But the skeleton. Does the skeleton take on new meaning with Halloween around the corner?
Yes, I didn't really think about the skeleton until you talked about it. So there you go. I'm shaking my bones at you. I don't know. I don't know.
We're going to cut that out, right?
Yeah, no, I'm keeping that in for sure.
Oh, this tastes like pumpkin.
Yeah. That's what I said. Like pumpkin pie.
Yep, pumpkin pie for sure.
Pumpkin pie. Just like it's like sweet, something like cinnamony kind of, maybe some nutmeg.
Yeah.
You just need some whipped cream on that.
Okay.
I should have brought some whipped cream and just put
some
it
vodka whipped cream or something.
in your beer. Oh, that would have been great. But anyway, what were we talking about?
So we built a spooky deck.
Right, the spooky
But
deck.
we didn't just build the deck, we played it.
We sure did.
So I guess first off, where were you playing this deck? What format?
I was playing it.
It's a standard deck.
Yeah, I was playing it on standard. I mainly did best of one because
the sideboard was kind of a late addition
yeah,
to the
our
deck.
sideboard wasn't, well, it also wasn't really a sideboard, so I was mainly just like, yeah, best of one's fine.
Yeah.
And I was just getting rolled by like aggro decks for sure.
Right.
Obviously, like if you see mountain, you're just like, okay, Embercleave's coming, and there's I can't set up.
We have what, 2 instant speed removal spells?
Yeah. So that was obviously it's a little rough, but to be fair, it never really felt like we didn't have a shot.
Yeah, I didn't have any games where I just felt like there was no chance of me winning.
Yeah, it never felt like I was just playing a bunch of bears and it was useless.
Right.
So
yeah, but definitely, didn't win a lot.
Didn't win a lot. I think my most frustrating games were actually when I was playing against like Yorion decks where they're playing Skyclave Apparitions. And so instead of killing my creatures like a Gruul deck would, they're just like exiling them. And I'm like, okay, well, so that's not even in the yard. And then I can't bring it back. And so even if I can, I think I played a couple games where I had Eerie Ultimatum in my hand, and the only card I could reanimate was like a Fabled Passage and maybe a Mire Triton. And I was like,
disaster.
Yeah, it was horrible. So that was a really hard matchup for me. I was like, man, if they just keep exiling
right, and Yorion has lots of ways to exile your
constantly.
Stuff.
That's the entire plan for them.
Right.
So, so that was a bit rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually don't think I even ran into Yorion at all.
Really,
I was playing best of one mostly as well.
Yeah,
ranked. Because why not? Why not tank my rank?
I was playing some play every once in a while. I would kind of jump back and forth.
But I think this deck isn't even the best one to take into the play queues because it ranks you against other opponents with similar rare accounts.
It was weird. I played against like several mythic accounts, and I'm only platinum, so it was just like, rare counts, is what you meant. So we have a ton of rares in the deck
because the deck actually has a lot of rares.
That makes sense. Why I kept playing all these mythic dudes that were like in the actual like numbers, and I'm like, what?
Oh, jeez.
I was like, why is this happening?
Why are they playing play? They don't want to risk their rank.
I think they were just like testing out decks because they were pretty interesting, but it was also just like, I'm getting rocked.
Yeah.
I'm like, what I was really hoping is that maybe I'll play this deck and they'll see enough cards that they'll be like, oh, that was kind of cool what they were doing. Maybe I'll do what they were doing.
Maybe they get scared,
Yeah, well, yeah, they mill a Eerie Ultimatum. Oh my God, what?
It's terrifying.
Actually,
Revenge of Raven.
I played I played against a few rogue decks, which was, interesting, because the rogues are trying to mill you,
right?
And you're also trying to mill you. So then they're kind of helping you, but also kind of hurting you, because they're getting more advantage of it sometimes. It was an interesting dynamic. I think you had more. Well,
yeah, so I've played a lot of self-mill in my day. I always love these green-black graveyard decks, so you always mill yourself out as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I've always loved playing against decks where their game plan is to mill you as well.
Yeah.
So you're both trying to turn your library over into your graveyard, and let's see whose game plan works out first. I think in this case, though, rogues have our number on this.
They got us.
I managed to beat rogues once.
Nice.
That was my goal. Okay, I'm going to play until I beat rogues one time. I did get them. It took a double Skyclave Shade start. Both in my opener. I just lay them out turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah.
And I just keep the beatdown going. And they kind of had to start responding to it. And then after they don't have a counter spell up, I would resolve something huge. So, turns out Sir Conrad
is great.
Very good against rogues.
Sir Conrad is really good against rogues because all they want to do is mill you, and then you're just dealing damage straight to their face.
So Sir Conrad's that card that basically its effect is that anytime a creature goes to a graveyard or leaves a graveyard or basically has anything to do with the graveyard, dies, goes from the battlefield to the graveyard, the opponent takes a point of damage. So the rogues are trying to mill your deck over.
Basically.
Every time they hit a creature, they take damage.
Yeah.
Every time they kill a creature, they take damage.
And then you're playing cards that are milling yourselves, and they're taking damage.
Right.
Then you attack into them, and they block, and they still take damage.
Right.
If they know what you're doing, and they see Sir Conrad on the stack or down, like they're going to kill it before anything happens.
Right.
But if they don't, then you get to have some fun.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often, but it is really
I managed to beat rogues once, and I was happy with that.
Yeah.
But that's got to be a bad matchup.
It's definitely a bad matchup. I can't really think of a good matchup in my when I was playing, but I do know that I did have quite a bit of fun. I would hang in there for quite a bit. There are a lot of people that are actually worried about the Mire Tritons, the Death Touch.
Right.
Like you could just have one of those out, and they wouldn't attack you for quite a bit. Like it would really save
bought you a lot of time.
Which was awesome.
Or they'd use a removal spell on it.
Yeah. And I'm like, great. Now I get to play Sir Conrad. Boom. Or a Massacre Worm. Boom.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I definitely spammed a lot of rage stickers, like the fingers in the air one. I used that so many times. I usually playfully.
Right.
I hope people understand that. I don't know how to use the sticker yet.
Well, soon we'll have our episode on arena etiquette.
That's true.
And then everyone
will
will
get
know.
to talk about that. But I do use it as like, it's obvious that either I tapped my mana wrong, or like I played a card and then you immediately killed it and then did something else that was bad, and I'm like, rah! That's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
I hope they don't think that.
Kind of like an oops thing when you're making.
Yeah, it's kind of like an oops, or like I'm trying to show them that I'm really mad, which made them good.
It's good for them.
It's good for them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of trying to get at, instead of being like sneaky and mean.
If they used it when it's clearly a time when I should be mad, now I am mad.
Yeah, exactly. So I was definitely doing it like, you killed my thing. Rah! I'm so mad.
Oh no.
No. Yeah, so that's what I usually do. Or as I try to hit it and then concede at the same time. So it's like, and then explosion.
Oh, that's great. That's great. They just have the sticker left there.
Just stay in there. Pumping his, I don't know, hedrons.
You guys can't see this, but Zach is pumping his fists
I'm trying
every single time he
I-
describes the sticker. It's great.
I'm trying to show you what it is. It's, I'm actually really excited for the rest of the stickers. So I'm super on board with them. They're awesome.
I don't have any yet, so.
Yeah, that's because whatever.
I didn't play the events you need to play to get them.
I play the events. I have the Mastery Pass. I'm all in on these.
I wanted to play this one because I wanted that Skyclave Shade and the Ruin Crab.
I actually built 2 decks for it.
Nice.
I built one that I thought that was pseudo the Spooky deck. I was maybe we'll play Singleton Spooky and see what happens.
Oh, cool.
And then I was just getting blown out by these Teamer ramp decks. So I was like, I'm building a Teamer ramp deck.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Exactly. Because then you play, Cultivate, and then you get to, tutor a creature. And if you know your 1-drop is Ruin Crab, and you play a 2-drop, you're going to get Ruin Crab every single time. It was fantastic.
That's how people figured out as Cascade was busted in the first place. All the modern decks, they just play stuff that has kind of fake mana costs.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really cost 5, but the converted mana cost is 5, so you're never going to hit it with your Cascade spell.
Exactly.
Adventure is a pretty good example of that you can cast them all for 2, but their CMC is 3.
Yeah, and actually because of that, there are a couple adventure cards that are banned from the Cascade Singleton, which Flaxen Intruder, because it's a 1-mana 1/1 or a 1-mana 1/2, but the adventure is like 7 or something. It's like 5 green to make 3 bears, but that was banned.
That makes sense.
But then later, at first I was like, that's weird. And then later I was like, oh yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, I get it because,
Because if
3/2/2
you cascade
bears
into
on
it, you
turn
can
2.
cast the adventure.
Yeah, because you can cast the adventure no matter what mana cost it is, which is also great for next time they play Cascade Singleton. Anyway,
yeah, but like you were saying, I never felt totally out of it. It was kind of always, oh man, I hope I can survive another turn because then I'm going to Eerie Ultimatum, and that always felt sweet.
exactly. Like I love holding the ultimatum in your hand and just waiting for the next land. You're just like, oh, I just need one land.
Man.
Need one land.
It really needs to be a white source too.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff didn't put any white sources in this deck.
Just a white source or Fabled Passage, that'd be perfect. I actually did play one game where my opponent had played an Ugin, and they only shot one of my creatures, and so I think I still had one left. And then I killed theirs with a Murderous Rider, And then on the subsequent turn, I played my Ugin
Oh, nice.
hard cast, and then they killed it with something else, and it was like, this is a crazy game.
I had a similar one, but I was on the other end.
Oh.
I had played Eerie Ultimatum, got all this stuff back, including Ugin to like kill his last creature, and then so I passed the turn with all this stuff in play. My opponent top decks their own Ugin, plays that Ugin, wipes away everything except my Ugin. But don't worry, my Ugin can kill his Ugin because it's below 3 loyalty
bolt
now.
it.
And so I drew a land or whatever. My opponent had one unknown card in hand. They draw a card. Turns out they just play the Great Henge and are able to tap that and play Questing Beast, which is now a 5/5 because of the Great Henge, which attacks me to almost dead, but kills my Ugin. And then I'm just like, oh no, that was a good draw.
That was a really good draw.
And they drew another card off it because it's...
Yeah, because of course, man, Great Henge.
But that just tells you how much mana they had because they hard cast the Great Henge and then played the Questing Beast.
That's true.
Off it.
Oh, man.
And Great Henge,
It's
hard
10?
to get rid of with Ugin.
It's really hard to get rid of.
Yeah, you need to -9.
Yeah, it has to be like, you just want to ult by that point.
And my Ugin was pretty close to ulting, but then this Questing Beast, I then had to kill my Ugin to kill the Questing Beast.
Oh,
Or to exile it. But I was very close to winning that one. I felt like there was a couple of top decks
but that's
away.
the kind of swingy stuff that was fun. Like there was
Yeah.
some big stuff. It's definitely fun. Just like having things in your graveyard that like people are like, okay, that's great, and they're not even doing anything about it. Or I mean, like I had a couple cling to dusts that were coming in, just taking out the good stuff because maybe they saw an Eerie Ultimatum or something.
Yeah, and often they just kind of want to draw cards, so they
They're like, whatever, I'll just get rid of
hit
something.
your Revenge of Ravens. I'm like, oh no, how am I gonna win now?
Yeah. I tried doing that a couple times with like warrior decks. I was like, turn 4, Revenge of Ravens, go. And they're like, they swing in.
Do they have an
with
LOL
Winota.
emote?
Yeah. They just, if only there was an LOL, right?
Yeah.
And they just play Winota and they just like swing in, flip their deck over, kill me.
Ember
And,
Cleave would get you too. I mean,
yeah, I gained some life though, a little bit of life.
that card was actually pretty good in draft.
It's
Throne
really
of
good in
Eldraine
draft.
Yeah.
That's almost why I think I had a good Eldraine draft where I had used it and Sir Conrad. I was like, both of these cards are going in this
I
spooky
get
deck.
it. Yeah. But Eldraine does have that aesthetic that lends
It
itself
does.
well
I mean,
to
like,
this.
obviously there's the fairy tale and the spookiness. So it played very well into what we
It's
were
also
trying
just
to do.
full of busted cards. But
Yeah. Well, Adventure is awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
really powerful.
It's once again, just for everyone to remember, back when those cards were coming out, there were a lot of people that are saying that those don't look like Magic cards.
Right.
And they shouldn't
Yeah.
be there and whatever. That just happens all the time. Like,
I gotta say, the Adventure alternate art cards, I think, are my favorite. But the new Landfall ones are giving them a run for their money. Because
Really?
those frames look beautiful to me as well. But the Adventure ones with the book on the two halves, I think it's so
I do
awesome.
think that I like the Adventure ones more. That's hard. There's a couple. I think Skyclave Shade could be probably one of my favorite like alt arts that they've done.
Yeah, it's really
Even
nice.
just more, I mean, a lot of the season, and I've been really into spooky stuff this year. Like I was hitting Halloween movies like back in September. Like
Yeah, he's been excited for a while.
for quite a while. Like this is really, I've had that pumpkin beer in my fridge for like 3 weeks waiting for you to drink it today. So I've been pretty excited about this. But yeah, I still have to say, like, I kept every single alt art card from Eldraine that I got, all the commons, everything,
Yeah,
hoping to get more. Like,
they're beautiful.
I think they're so beautiful. They A+, great job.
And the Godzilla thing in Ikoria wasn't really my cup of tea.
The Godzilla thing was a little bit different. Obviously, it's the cross-platform thing. Theirs was kind of like the comic booky style,
right.
which
Yeah.
I thought was fine. I like comic books. I don't know. I didn't have the same affection for it.
I already find Magic art a bit comic booky compared to what it was when I started playing.
True.
You know?
Yes.
So it's almost like the modern frames are the comic book promos. for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. So when they do comic book promos, it's like this is just pushing it so hard.
Right. Yeah.
I understand that there's a lot of like money in the Asian market is kind of that was a big push for the Godzilla stuff, It's making sure that you
Right,
can
because they
expand.
did the promos in War of the Spark too.
Right, and the War of the Spark ones, that was a
Japanese
big,
promos.
the Japanese promos, because finally they get all these Japanese artists that are absolutely fantastic getting able to do these wonderful pieces.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which I think are super cool. I was sad that they weren't in English as well. I kind of wanted that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's super cool either way. Like, I'm glad that they did that. I hope they do it again, and then there are English versions so that I can have more access to them. But I like foreign cards, so whatever. If they can be on Arena again, like, awesome.
Sure.
I'm
I mean,
fine
you
with
just
that
change
too.
your language setting if you want foreign cards.
I just play in Japanese and be like, I don't even know what this is called.
I don't know what my opponent's playing.
I don't know. I don't even know what.
I'm not winning though.
Oh crap! I said attack all and not cancel. I can't even read anything. That's so funny.
But yeah, the landfall ones I think look great.
I think they look really great. I think I'm just set to do all the festivals to get as many of the other ones as I possibly can.
Yeah, spent a bit of gold on the Lotus Cobra one. I think that one's awesome.
I also think I haven't got that one yet, but I think because I got the Euro lands, I'll probably hold off for a little bit.
Sure.
Also, because I'm hoping that a lot of them will come in the future, like,
Right.
festivals that they're doing.
But anyway, back to the deck.
The spooky deck.
Yeah.
Wow, these beers are really getting to me.
We could just spend the whole episode in the weeds if you want.
Obviously, that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's fine. Though, Jeff, you had quite a few ideas about, like, what if we want to take the spooky deck and make it, like, better and less spooky but better mechanically.
Right. I think we've made it clear to you that this deck is not the best. It's not something you should jump into ranked mode with.
We've said that a couple
and
times.
expect to rank up.
Yeah, I was trying not to do that as much as possible.
Right.
And I think that with some modifications, though.
Yeah, I think the core plan of having a self-mill deck that tries to use the Eerie Ultimatum, to win as a game-ending card is not that bad. So the way I would make this deck more consistent, more competitive, is to make it more consistent.
Yes, exactly.
So we need more of the self-mill. So up to 4 Mire Tritons. And Timuret Calls the Dead, I also think, is one of the more powerful self-mill cards available to us right now. And so more self-mill like that and more reanimation. Because if you don't draw if you only play just the one reanimation spell.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, we had a couple copies of Agadeem's Awakening, which is also a reanimator.
Yeah, which helps in a pinch. It's a little bit expensive, and you don't get as much stuff because it's only converted mana cost stuff and not names.
But yeah, it can kind of tide you in the turn 5 range or turn 6 range. You could get 3 creatures back. So you're going to want more reanimation than just the Eerie Ultimatum. And I'm thinking cards like maybe just play 4 Agadeem's Awakenings because they're lands. So they're lands that double as reanimation spells. You could play the new Nissa, which is a planeswalker that helps pressure opposing planeswalkers and also reanimates things if they don't kill the Nissa right away.
Exactly. And makes creatures when you've lost your other ones with your lands.
Right. Then you have Null Priest of Oblivion's another option for a reanimation card.
We had put one in the sideboard just because it is quite spooky.
It is kind of
scary. It has like a
yeah.
weird dominatrix kind of thing
Yeah, there's a
going
throw
on.
there.
There's some chains and like some blindfolds kind of.
It's kind of why I steered clear of it. But I do like the card. It comes down as a 2/1 Menace Lifelink on turn 2 if that's what you need. In the late game, it reanimates something.
6 mana comes down. It's a body, and
it's a Massacre Worm out of your graveyard plus a 2/1.
Yeah, which is pretty great, and it gets any card, right? It doesn't have
any creature.
Any creature, which is great because then you can get something more expensive than it itself, and you can get. My favorite thing is to try to get off-color stuff because I think that's really funny.
Right, that was funny when we had the Terror of the Peaks.
Yeah, put a Terror of the Peaks in there, and then you're like, wait, what? How did you get the Terror of the Peaks?
Then you're just hoping you're playing against Rakdos, so they make you discard it.
Yeah.
Every time you always draw that card.
Yeah.
It never works out where you mill that card.
No, it's in your opening hand, you mulligan. It's in your next hand,
Yeah.
you mulligan again, and then it's not in your hand.
And then you draw it.
Yeah, on turn 1.
Yeah. And then the last reanimator spell I wanted to say that I think is competitive viable at least is Nethroi, Apex of Death.
Yeah.
So this is the creature that when it mutates, you get to bring back 10 power worth of stuff from creatures from your graveyard.
Yeah, it's like a dinosaur cat thing. What
It's
is
a nightmare cat, I think.
Nightmare cat. I think it has 3 creature types. I think they all have 3 creature types.
This actually could have been in the deck, right?
It could have been. I was thinking about it, but it didn't just... It's kind of spooky.
It wasn't as scary as the stuff we put in.
It's not.
I think.
It's a cat nightmare beast is what it is. I mean, it's got some ghost skulls around it. It didn't really do it for me.
Didn't make the cut.
It was kind of in the high end, and really, I wanted to make sure that our high end was Eerie Ultimatum, and we're playing that for sure.
Right. But those are some extra reanimation spells you can add. And to do this, you just replace some of the lower power level cards. So
yeah, just take out the stuff that you would think to take out.
The Steward, the Addams Family guy. In the
Liliana Stewart. He's got the candelabra and like the glass of wine. Very haunted house spooky guy.
Had to be included.
Yes, absolutely fantastic spooky art, but that
not really a constructed level card.
Yeah, that's not going to be on the Pro Tour or anything.
All the spiders that we included, maybe not the best. Aside from Chainweb, Arachneer does see some play to counter rogues in the sideboard.
That one, but the other ones,
I hate to say it, but Revenge of Ravens,
No, you gotta cut Revenge of Ravens just because it doesn't do enough. Most of the time, if they're attacking with a bunch of creatures, it's because they're going to Ember Cleave, and there's no way that that's going to help.
Yeah. But I think you could turn this into a deck that you can rank up on the ladder with.
You could, and it would definitely come out of nowhere, especially if you're making it in a way that like you're kind of looking for a rogues matchup.
Right.
And when we talk about rogues, we're talking about the Seth Manfield list, which is counters, rogues, and maybe a Ruin Crab or two. Some people have been adding those just because they like them a lot.
For me, there's a difference. There's kind of 2 lists now. Maybe we'll talk about that. Well, we'll talk about it now.
Talk about it. Well,
Let's talk about it now.
Well, we can talk about it now.
There's kind of 2 lists. There's one that's Lurrus, Ruin Crabs, and I always see those going together. And the other one, rather than play Lurrus, prefers to play Shark Typhoon.
Yeah.
And those versions don't usually play Ruin Crab.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of it from the most recent event, Reed Duke had this list with the Shark Typhoons, and then, for example, Carlos Ramao had the version with Lurrus and Ruin Crab.
Ruin Crab.
Yeah, we'll get to that event later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But basically, that idea of like beating that mill plan to their point, basically like trying to get to go off before they can kill you.
Right, and playing escape creatures and all these reanimator spells. I mean, they're just powering up your reanimator spells.
Yeah, so
that's the idea.
The biggest thing I think with those matchups is like making sure you hit your land drops is pretty can be hard because you start to lose a ton of lands at a certain point. But then we have cards like the Binding of the Titans, which obviously mills yourself, but you can either exile cards from your opponent's graveyard or your own.
Right.
So if you're getting close to 8 cards, get rid of the lands that are in your graveyard.
For sure.
Or then return whatever you need. Those will kind of help with that.
I think I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try to build
an
honest Abzan Reanimator deck here. I'm going to use this shell. I'm going to turn it into...
Perfect.
I'm going to take our own advice here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see if I can rank up on the ladder.
So you do that. You build it. You send it to me. I'll play it.
All right, sure.
Because... yeah, I have a little bit harder time finding the... Well, you're just better at building decks, I think.
I don't know about that.
But, I still have so much of this beer.
I know, we're supposed to go to the beer break.
I know, but let's talk about the beers because we do have some time, and I have maybe about...
we're gonna...
I don't know, maybe half of this.
Me too, man. I gotta chug liquid pumpkin pie that happens to be 10% alcohol here.
That doesn't sound too terrible, though. I think it sounds pretty good, right? Okay. So I've had Bone Shaker before. I'm gonna do my ratings. No, let's do Bone Shaker first. Let's just do Bone Shaker. So, can, just on the can. Once again, brown. Okay, we talked about brown last week.
Yeah,
I think I do like brown cans just because people don't really do it. They're just like not bold enough to do it. So I really like the choice of the brown color. The gold skeleton is quite nice. Obviously, they do a bunch of cool stuff. 7.1% is no freaking joke. I like this beer. I'm not a big IPA fan, but I will definitely drink this one. It is getting to me.
It's kind of a staple in the Toronto IPA scene.
Yeah.
It's one of the first. Amsterdam was one of the sort of burgeoning companies when the craft beer revolution was taking over
Exactly.
here.
So Bone Shaker is one of their big ones. Like they'll do a bunch of promos you can get. Recently they had you could buy like 4 Bone Shakers and a glass that was like a skull glass.
Oh, cool.
I didn't buy it because I have too many glasses in my apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll probably drink many more of these. I'll still give it a platinum though, because
I'm right there with you.
I think it's a platinum beer. It just feels like I'm just gonna say platinum for most things.
Well, this one I think really fits the bill. I mean, I love all that it's done for the beer community around here as one of the sort of first, IPAs that really got popular.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's the best IPA on the market.
I mean,
and it also, I will say, it has definitely very piney taste. And I like that, but I know people that don't like that.
That's interesting.
The kind of woody flavor in the hops.
To me it tastes like IPAs. It tastes like
IPAs.
It tastes like a lot of IPAs that I drink. I don't drink a ton of them because they taste like this. It's definitely solid. It's definitely going to get the job done. But boy, I try to steer away from them just because I know that I can't play all night drinking this thing. Man, I can't even do this drinking this thing.
Yeah.
But talking about having a hard time finishing a beer, Flying Monkeys, they're paranormal.
Yeah.
How are you doing with that guy?
It's too sweet for me, man.
It's too sweet?
Yeah, it does taste like liquefied pumpkin pie. And I like pumpkin pie, don't get me wrong.
So, but I want to ask, like, as far as, like, pumpkin ales go with you, first of all, how do you feel like pumpkin ales in general?
Most of the ones I've had, I don't love. I've had a few good ones that I really appreciate.
I feel like I've drank a lot of them. I don't like pumpkin that much in general.
Right.
Though this is the first one that I've been like, if I'm going to drink a pumpkin thing, it better taste like this. That's in my mind.
Right. Because you want to go all in on that.
Like, I don't want something that's like, oh, this is a beer, but it kind of has like a weird thing. There's like a pumpkin thing. And this one doesn't really taste like a beer. It tastes like a dessert. But I don't know. I have been surprised. I had many different ones trying to pick the one I was going to bring for today. And this is the one I decided.
Okay.
Of those other ones.
Gotcha.
I might have had 5. And that was my favorite. As far as like, well, it was my favorite as far as like, this tastes like a pumpkin. And it's going to knock some people out.
Yeah.
It's really...
That's definitely true.
Those were the 2 criteria I think that I had.
I think they went a bit extreme on the spices. Like, pumpkin pie really is what you get here.
That's all you get. Yeah, it's great. What's wrong with that?
I got to go gold on this.
Whoa, you're giving it a gold?
Yeah.
Wow. That is like...
I want to like it, man.
I get it.
And gold isn't bad, you know? It's not that I dislike it, but...
So, I do think I need to be a little bit harder on my beer rankings because I feel like so far I've been kind of nice.
Well, I kind of feel like we maybe had the idea that bronze and silver being the lowest tiers would be kind of macro brews.
Yeah, well, I feel like a bronze beer is like a bond...
But we're never really going to bring one of those to the show, so we just kind of...
I just want to list
to
bronze beers. So a bronze beer is like a dab. Have you know dab?
Yeah.
It's a dab. It's like a Tatra. Have you had that? It's got the dude with the sombrero on it.
Okay.
That is like, I have a really hard time even just drinking one. Like that's bronze to me. Where it's like, that's a beer that I've bought that's like less than $3, which is awesome. But I need to like put like some lemon in it or something. I have to doctor it up.
Or it has to be your 6th one of the night. So
Exactly. So you have it in the back of the fridge and you're like, I just need something, right? Mm-hmm. This, I think, tastes great. I really like the Paranormal. I'll probably keep buying it if they keep making more of it.
That's great.
I love that it's 10% because it's funny. Is it funny? I don't know. But... I don't know. This is hard. it's hard knowing yours before I say mine because I already came into it being like, this is great. This will knock you right out of diamond is what I think it is. I think it's diamond, but if you drink this before you get to diamond, you're getting knocked down.
Yeah.
Like
they don't even let you go down, but
this beer will make you go down, right? Like this is you're in diamond, you drink it, you go to platinum, and then you go to gold. Like that's how far down you're gonna go drinking that beer. But I really think that they hit the flavors right. If you're gonna do a pumpkin thing, I think that you should do it instead of. I mean, there's a bunch of other ones that are on the market that taste like you're biting a pumpkin, which I don't like. Or you're taking a sip of a beer and you're biting a pumpkin.
Or does it taste like maybe they soaked some pumpkin in the beer while it was fermenting?
That's kind of what it tastes like, and
That's what a lot of them do.
I know, and I don't think it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like this one because maybe there's literally no pumpkin in it, but the things that they put in it make it taste like it.
There probably
or at least pie. You know what I mean? I don't actually know what they do with this one, so maybe I'm talking kind of out of my ass with this, but I think that that's interesting where you're like, here's pumpkin pie spice and beer, and you're going to think about pumpkins, but there's no pumpkin in it, you know? I think that is kind of how a lot of food is made. The 10% is rough, though. It's a little bit rough. I can have probably one of those, and then...
That's for when you already got to Mythic and you don't care anymore.
I know, but I can't rate it Mythic because
Yeah.
That was my dilemma. Like, I really wanted to say Mythic because I was like, you can reward yourself with this beer.
Yeah.
But number one, I've never been to Mythic, so I don't know what that's like. Number two, I like it, but I really just like it in the fall. I will not drink it any other time.
Right.
I think that after November hits, I probably I won't buy it till next year. Or I'll buy a bunch and save it till next year or something like that. Just in case they discontinue it, which I doubt they will, but... Anyway,
that was a lot more beer talk than we usually do.
That was about 8 minutes.
because we have so much.
We have so much more beer. I was talking so much that I didn't even drink the beer that I'm supposed to be drinking.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling cycle. We just spend 2 hours talking about beer.
Yeah, so basically instead of going to a Halloween party this year, because we can't really do that, we're having our Halloween party right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And boy, are we worried about what's going to happen with the rest of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, bottoms up. Let's go for it. All right, here we go. And after
the beer break.
Yeah, after the beer break. Here we go.
All right, Zach, what'd you go with?
I went with the paranormal. I am having a good night tonight.
All right.
I'm going 10% again. I really think I just enjoy tasting this. I think it's good.
That's great. I obviously went with the Bone Shaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they could have guessed that based on our ratings.
Yeah, that you pick your beer, I pick mine.
Yeah.
That's fine, whatever. I did bring this thinking I was going to finally get you with something like some weird pumpkin thing.
You got to go weirder.
I'm gonna keep trying. You'll see what I bring next week. It's going to be a weird.
All right, I look forward to
it. So this weekend we had an event.
Right.
It was the Zendikar League weekend for the MPL and the Rivals Leagues. However, I have absolutely no idea what those mean.
Right. That's a lot of terminology.
It's
through my way there.
Super confusing, and there have been a lot of, like, when I started playing Magic, there were different leagues. Everything seemed, there were the GPs and PTQs and Pro Tours.
Right.
Everything seems
all
different
that's
now.
in the past.
Everything's in the past. Okay.
All right. Well, let me help you out because I actually looked into this.
That would be awesome.
And I got to say, it's not necessarily that confusing if you use like a standard sports reference. It's almost built like akin to modern day sports teams.
Okay.
Or leagues, sorry. So there are two leagues, okay? There's the Magic Pro League, commonly referred to as the MPL. That has 24 players, and it's basically the upper echelon. It's the highest tier.
Okay. So that's varsity, basically.
Yeah, or like the NFL, you know.
Okay, it's the NFL.
Do football,
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
And the Rivals League would then be, it's kind of the next tier down. It's one tier down, but the players are still great, and that has 48 players.
Got it.
There's two kind of analogies we can go with here. American sports, so American football, for example, You could have the MPL being the NFL,
Yeah.
and Rivals being like college,
Yeah, probably college.
right?
Definitely not the CFL.
Yeah, that's not even.
Unless
we'll get to that.
Well, unless we're talking about like the people that are in the Rivals league are the ones who didn't get into the MPL, which would mean they would be the CFL because that is most of the players in the CFL.
Yeah,
right.
That they didn't make the NFL.
They didn't.
No,
make
let's
the
give the
NFL.
Rivals League players more credit.
Okay, so they're college players, so they are aspiring athletes that do have promise to be in the NFL.
They're very good players.
Yes.
But the other analogy you can go with is sort of European football.
Okay.
And neither analogy is perfect because we do have a playoff type thing, which tells you North American, but then there is relegation and ascension between the two leagues, so that would lead you towards the European system.
Gotcha.
So neither analogy is perfect, but whichever you prefer.
Cool.
So the season is divided into 3 sections, and each section is called a split. So there's the Zendikar Rising split, the Kaldheim split, and the Strixhaven split. So the next 3 sets
that we're going to see. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim split should be kind of thought of as the regular season.
Okay.
And the Strixhaven split is kind of the playoffs.
Gotcha.
So the Strixhaven split marks the end of the league. And I'll get more into why that's the playoffs later. But they behave a bit differently.
Okay.
Each split, though, has 2 main components. Okay. So you have your league weekends, which is just what just passed.
Just this weekend.
And the first 2, Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim, have 2 league weekends.
Okay.
And Strixhaven has 3. And then there's a championship.
Okay, and is the championship the end of the league weekends, or is that
no?
The Strixhaven
it's a separate thing. It's the end of the split. So Zendikar Rising split has 2 league weekends. The one that just passed.
Yeah.
There's one in the second week of November, and then in December, I think, is the championship.
Gotcha.
Before Kaldheim comes out, and that split.
Okay, so each split has its own championship weekend.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And the quote-unquote league weekends for the first 2, these are your regular season matches, okay? So every weekend, the first weekend that just happened, every player in the MPL plays 12 matches and the rivals. And then next one will be 11. So basically they played the first half of their opponents in the MPL this weekend, and they're going to play the other half at the next Zendikar Rising League weekend.
Okay.
So after those 2 weekends, every member in the MPL will have played every other member once.
And that next one is like November 6th or something.
I think November 7, 8, that weekend.
Yeah, that weekend. Gotcha. Okay.
And every time, it's very simple in terms of standings. Every win gets you 1 point.
Oh, okay. So that's why they're, right now, all their winnings are like one number. It's not like a score. It's not like,
Totally.
I don't know, 9-2 or whatever.
Yeah, so this past weekend, Ray Sato went 11-1. He's in the lead in the MPL with 11 points.
Got it. Okay.
Right. Now, the Rivals players, same thing, but even after the Zendikar Rising 2 league weekends, they'll have only played half the opponents because there's 48 opponents in that league. But it's the same thing, 1 point per win. Then we do that again in the Kaldheim, the 2 league weekends. So at the end of this, every MPL player has played every other one twice, and every Rivals player has played all the other Rivals once.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's kind of the regular season. And you get 1 win for a match win, and 1 win or 0 points for a loss.
Gotcha.
And so the reason they're doing it this way is that last year they tried the play every week thing. It just didn't work. People weren't watching it. The players didn't like it. So they're kind of splitting it up. Okay, your season's going to happen in 4 weekends. You play a quarter of your matches each weekend. So the league weekends for the first 2 splits are essentially your regular season matches.
All right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Then you have these championships that occur at the end of each split.
Right. So there's a Zendikar one, a Strixhaven one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a Kaldheim one.
And a Kaldheim one.
And
Kaldheim.
The Zendikar one and the Kaldheim one happen after the league weekends in the split.
Gotcha.
And they're just tournaments. So every MPL player makes it. Every Rivals player is qualified. And other people can qualify as well through winning different events.
Oh, okay.
And basically, the MPL and the Rivals players, they get points based on how well they do towards their league standing. So if you get 9 wins, I think you get a point. 10 wins is 2 points, 11 wins 3, and top 8 is 4.
Okay.
So this actually helps your league standing, but it's still just a big tournament with a lot of prize money on the line. Lots of people are invited to that.
Okay.
So it's kind of a mix, all
Nice.
the Rivals Leagues player could play, MPL players could play people in neither league.
Interesting. Trying to get into those leagues.
That's kind of like your pro tours from the past. It's
Got
a
it.
separate tournament, but for MPL players and Rivals players, it does affect their leagues.
All right.
Then when we move to the third split, Strixhaven, now the championship happens before the league weekends, but it's the same thing. It's still a tournament. You can get league points from it.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the league weekends are now kind of like your playoffs. So you're not just playing everybody now. You're playing based on seeding in those league weekends.
Okay.
And every weekend, people get eliminated. So from the first to the second, some people will not have ended well enough and will get eliminated, and so on. So now we have 3 league weekends that are like your playoffs. It's your pairings are based on seeding, and people get eliminated as you go along.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
And that's why they happen after the championship, because the championship determines it's like your
Order.
last chance to get your seeding.
Yeah, where you want to sit and have your pairings for the next, for the playoff.
For
round.
the playoffs,
Right.
exactly.
Kind of looking for your buys, quote unquote.
Right.
Where will you be seated against like the top against the
Exactly.
bottom?
It's going to be power seeded. Yep. And so it's basically just like pro sports, you have your regular season stuff, your playoffs, and your tournaments on the side. The only big difference is the side tournaments actually affect your league ranking.
Gotcha. Okay.
And all of this is you get a payout. So they pay you out actually if you happen to be in the MPL or the Rivals League. At the end of each split, they pay out $50,000 split among the standings.
Oh wow.
For each league.
Okay.
So there is incentive to do well in each split.
Yeah.
Right? If you're first at the end of the first split, you get whatever the $5,000, whatever the $50,000 is amounted to first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another $50,000 paid out for the overall standing.
Got it. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. And then, like I said, there's relegation and stuff. So the bottom MPL finishers will move down to Rivals. The bottom Rivals players will be schmucks like us, the so-called challengers who have to fight their way into these tournaments. And then the Rivals players who do really well move up to the MPL.
Right.
And then there's this whole other system that maybe we'll talk about another time about, how us challengers can enter the Rivals.
Sure.
And
Yeah. When
how
we do that.
more than just the top finishing Rivals players can end up in the MPL and stuff. That's called a brawl. I think they have a bunch of different brawl tournaments.
What brawl? Like, are you playing brawl? Or
No,
it's just called
they're just
brawl.
called brawls. I believe.
That's a little confusing, but I
Oh, sorry, they're called gauntlets. That's on
Gauntlets.
They're called
All right.
gauntlets. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, do you want to play brawl instead? Here you go.
Yeah.
No, yeah, gauntlets. That makes sense.
But basically, for the thing that just happened,
Yes.
it was regular season matches.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that is that every match counts because these people are trying to earn regular season points.
They're just trying to they're just trying to get points, and so then the next weekend they're going to get more points,
Right.
and then there's a championship, and then there's more points they keep adding on for the
and
next
they're
couple
worried
of
about their final standings.
Exactly.
So in the event, you sometimes saw, somebody is 7-2 and they're playing against somebody who's 2-7. Think, oh, that's weird, but the match matters, so that was cool.
Exactly.
Every match mattered.
Yeah, which actually, I don't know if you saw, but I was watching Brad Nelson was playing against his roommate, Brian.
Braun Duan.
Yeah, Braun Duan.
So just to interject, all of the feature matches were like friends playing against each other, which I think was hilarious.
It was pretty hilarious, and especially this one.
Yeah.
So it was Brad and BBD, so they call him.
Yeah.
So basically, BBD was playing a Azorius Yorion deck, and Brad was playing Gruul Adventures, basically. And first game basically goes straight to Brian. He had everything he needed, went through it.
Oh wow!
You know,
When
and
you said straight two, I was expecting an easy win for Gruul, but
no, I really think that Yorion is much better against the Gruul deck if you don't get a fast start with like brush fire elementals and stuff.
If you don't cleave them,
you're on a bad spot.
Right.
I think the brush fire elemental might be the most important part of that,
Right.
because you have to hit early to get them low enough that a cleave will kill them.
right?
Where if you don't,
Because that's their weakness. They have all sorcery speed stuff.
Yeah, so if you don't have that, you won't be able to cleave them to kill them. You'll cleave them to 2, and then they'll be able to build it back up, kind of. So basically, Brad Nelson loses. Brian beats him. Second game, it's kind of a back and forth, but it's fairly clear that even if Brad cleaves in, he's going to lose. Like, he has one in hand. It's not going well. But luckily, they both live in the same house. And so Brad stops. He looks away for a while from the screen. And they're like, I don't know. Marshall's talking like, I don't know what's going on. And Brad writes on a piece of paper. And he puts it up to the screen. And it says, I have no outs, but I have an idea, basically. And then he leaves his chair. And he runs, I'm assuming downstairs or something. And the next time you see
Wherever
him,
Brian lives,
he's in Brian's space, jumping on his mouse, trying to make him concede. And he goes and he gets up and he clicks the button to make him concede. And Brian fights him off. And then he gives him the handshake in person in Brian's camera. And Brian shakes his hand. And they
Oh,
finish
that's
the match.
hilarious.
It was actually really, really funny. And I did love that it was such a goofy kind of thing for kind of normally you'd think of a really intense tournament. You know, these are pro Magic
There are
players
stakes
doing
on the
stuff.
line, yeah.
There are big stakes, especially because at the time I think Brad had 7 wins and Brian had 2. So Brian really needed this win.
His third win. Yeah.
You know, his third win to set him up so that when he goes to the next league weekend, he can really, if he goes off, he could really be in the spot he needs to be.
Right.
But it was just a really nice, fun kind of, you get to see their friendship, and it was just really fun.
Yeah, I think Pro Magic needs a bit more of that, so it's nice to see that coming.
Because, everyone can be really stoic, but it was quite funny. It was like all over Twitter. And
yeah, that's great.
Just know your outs. If you got an out, if you can force your opponent to concede.
Just what's your percentage at wrestling, Brian?
Yeah, basically, like, what do you think? It was pretty funny, and I really enjoyed it just as a spectator because anything you can get is just so fun.
I actually had a lot of fun watching the event. I ended up watching more of it than I thought I would have. So, I watched most of the MPL matches.
Nice. I had seen a few, but I think I went back to watch that one just because I wanted to see what happened. But
I really enjoyed also just seeing Reed Duke play against William Huey Jensen.
Oh,
that was a Rogues Mirror match, and there's a point where essentially Reed Duke has 2 counterspells in hand, and he could fight in a counterspell war over the Shark Typhoon that William had put on the stack. And so he counters it. William counters back with a Drown in the Lock. And if Reed Duke plays his negate, he's probably going to lose that game because William has another Drown in the Lock. Instead, he decides to flash back his own the card that exiles.
Cling
to Dust. Yeah, thanks. He flashes back his own Cling to Dust, targeting a card in his own graveyard, which puts him at exactly too few cards in his graveyard for Drown in the Lock. So the Drown in the Lock fizzles, and because Huey's other card is Drown in the Lock, the Shark Typhoon gets countered, and the counterspell in Huey's hand is now useless, and Reed untaps and plays his own Shark Typhoon. And I was like, I would have snapped off that negate and lost this game. For sure. I would have snapped off the negate.
Is crazy.
Just a great play. And the whole match was filled with moments like that, just between 2 great players. Reed Duke managed to get the W, but
not only great players, but great friends as well. They have been working together for
They were on the same exact deck list. I think Huey maybe played 1 Brazen Borrow on the sideboard that Reed didn't play.
Yeah, but
essentially
the same deck.
74 of the same cards.
But they've been working together for so long that's great. I did hear that actually in the pre-tournament talk Reed Duke was saying that William Huey Jensen was actually the only person he didn't want to play against. And he ended up having to play against him in the first round. That's
I don't think it was the first round.
Oh.
But that was just the feature match.
The feature match. Yeah, my mistake.
But they're going to have to play everyone in the MPL.
Yeah, exactly. So, but making sure everyone gets to see it is also...
And then, not to do Huey an injustice here, he had a great game against Autumn Burchett.
Oh my God.
That was a game that I think I would have lost 10 different times if I was in Huey's seat.
I ended up... it just seems to happen every time I just go online to just watch. Autumn's playing, which is just a gift to me because I love watching Autumn play so much because I'm a huge fan of Autumn's. I was like, all right, William Huey Jensen against Autumn Burchett. This is going to be great. I'm going to sit down. It was game 3. I hadn't seen the rest of it, but I knew that this was for the match. Sat down and watched the whole thing. Holy crap.
How many times were you sure that Autumn was going to win that?
I thought Autumn was going to win immediately. I was like, this is over. Yeah. There's no way. I was like, sorry, William. You're done.
Even though I could see both hands, I was still unsure of what Huey's correct decision was. But he seemed sure he made the right play every turn.
It was...
For 5 turns in a row until he won the game.
It was insane. Also, big to note, hey... remember when we said that Shark Typhoon doesn't need to be hard casted?
No, we edited that out, right?
No. We kept it in. We kept it. Yeah. So
okay. Well, it seemed to be the theme of the weekend.
Yeah, everyone was hard casting Shark Typhoons and then playing non-creature spells to make so many sharks to win the game. It just was what was happening all over the place.
Yeah.
Not only is that how William Huey Jensen won that match because he landed a Shark Typhoon on the battlefield, but LSV did it. There were so many people.
The match I described between Reed and Huey was all about resolving a Shark Typhoon.
All about Shark Typhoon getting on the battlefield as a hard cast. So
might have been a bit wrong.
No, I wouldn't say wrong. I would say that card is really good, like we said, and it works in 2 different ways.
You know what, Zach? I have a way to save us. We were talking about Historic.
That's true. We were. We were talking about.
I still haven't seen it in Historic.
Yeah, so it doesn't happen in Historic. So it's just standard.
Yeah, that's.
But no, still craft them. They're great, and they really showed up this weekend. It was crazy. One big thing to note, though, all of these players were building decks specifically for the other people in their league.
Right.
Or who they were fighting against.
Yeah, there's only 24 players in the event.
So the meta is a lot smaller, and they knew that building their decks.
They know who they're playing against.
They know who they're playing against, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is these decks are not what you want to take immediately straight to the ladder.
At least not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Yeah. Don't take Reed's Rogues deck and be like, this is going to win on the ladder because he was great or whatever. These were specifically tuned for the tournament they were playing. Mm-hmm. So just know that there's nothing wrong with going ahead and being like, I'm going to take this deck. It's going to be great. Just think about it a little bit.
But what you can do is look at the results. Yeah. And most people will kind of, this deck did well, I'm going to take it and do that. So you can kind of infer what you might see on the ladder. Yeah.
So maybe you'll be like, this deck hit the top. I will, Gruul Adventures, right? So Gruul Adventures are at the top. Mm-hmm. Then you'll be like, okay, maybe I'll see some more Gruul Adventures, so I'll play a deck that will counter that a little bit.
Right.
Though that's what you can kind of see. Maybe they didn't watch and know that that's not the deck to be playing right now.
Right.
And you can know, hey, I should play a deck that's going to hurt that one a bit more. And maybe that Yorion, Azorius list is the one to do it.
And I guess in that vein, it's worth mentioning that the second place MPL member, so the person who did second best, is Paulo Vitor Damo de Rosa, PVDDR, and he played Rakdos mid-range.
That's
a deck
rough.
I thought it was dead. I hadn't seen it in weeks leading up to the event.
I've been seeing
played it
all over the place in best of one. It's a best of one deck in my mind, and I've been getting wrecked by it.
Well, he played it and he went 9-3. So I would expect to see a resurgence of this deck.
I really think there's going to be more.
Part of the thing is it's very good against rogues, and a lot of people brought rogues. It was the most dominant deck.
It was like 33% or something.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rogues.
So because it's just playing all the best escape creatures with Kroxa and Ox of Agonis.
Yeah.
So it's really punishing the rogues players. And it's also PV, so he's just one of the best players of all time. So
Absolutely.
he managed to go 9-3.
Yeah, so like what are you going to do? Like
But his success with that deck, I would expect to see a lot more people playing that on the ladder.
Yeah. 100%. Overall, I thought it was like so much fun to watch. I was just obviously kind of doing what I always do with these tournaments. I'm dipping in and out throughout the day.
Right.
Of course, I'm watching like Sunday's hard because I'm watching football and different things.
Yeah.
But like before the Broncos game and after the Broncos game, I was watching. Actually, and some in the middle because the Broncos were terrible this week.
Well, the Bills were playing the Jets, so
I
was free to watch.
You were like, whatever. It doesn't even matter. The
game was tighter than I hoped it was going to
Yeah.
be. I didn't watch. I just saw
even after them trading Le'Veon Bell to the Chiefs, which is playing
anyways,
the Broncos. Whatever.
Anyways,
that's more football talk.
getting off topic.
But yeah, so I got to see a few games. It was really nice. I love being able to watch it so easily. It seems like broadcasting is doing a lot better.
But the cool thing about the league weekends too is every player playing in it is streaming.
Yeah, so
their matches.
You can watch your favorite players.
Right.
Like if I just want to watch Autumn Burchett, which I kind of do,
yeah,
I can just go to their stream and just watch.
They have
them
a great
all day.
stream.
Yeah.
If you've never checked it out.
So,
but you can even do the hybrid thing. I can watch the main stream, which is all like friend grudge matches. Which is cool. And then I see, oh wow, Autumn's 7-2. I'm going to tune into that stream or whatever.
So it's really, really nice.
And all the Rivals players are streaming as well. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm excited for the next one. Get to be able to see a lot more, and do it more justice.
Right, and hopefully now everyone knows what they are. Because I think the problem was just that it was kind of hard to find that information.
It is
At least
hard
for me. I had to do
because this was the first one, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the first time we're doing this format, and it is kind of confusing. And that's why we wanted to explain it to you a little bit. While we go into another thing that's happening, there are so many tournaments all the time. If you're not involved in them, you can totally get involved. Like this weekend.
Remember we said challengers, scrubs like us could participate
scrubs
in these championship events.
Yeah, that's what Beyonce said. We're scrubs.
How do we do it? Well, there's a tournament coming out on MTG Arena.
Yeah, it's the Arena Open. It's open to everyone. November 1st, I'm pretty sure. Nope, starts on the 31st at 8 a.m.
Wait, day one is Saturday.
Yes, but you can start it on the 31st.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which is Saturday. No, the Saturday is the 31st.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 100% correct with that. So the entry fee,
do the math.
The entry
27.
fee, yeah, it is 20,000 gold or 4,000 gems. You can do best of 1 or best of 3 depending on what you care about the most.
What you think's going to give you the best chance?
Yes, what's going to give you the best chance? I would probably say so. Day 1, you can choose best of 1 or best of 3. Day 2 is all best of 3. So probably do best of 3. Like that's what I'd probably say. I haven't done one of these before, but that would be my first inclination is like just get your deck and play best of 3 and then go to the next day and play best of 3, right?
Yeah. I believe that personally I'm better at best of 3 than best of 1.
And I am better at watching from home, honestly.
But you have to remember that in best of 3 means 2 out of the 3 games are sideboard games. So it's whether or not you believe in your ability to sideboard.
Yes, if you know that your sideboard is going to be good or not. So in best of 1, you have to get 7 wins to qualify for day 2. And best of 3, you have to get 4 wins to qualify for day 2. So that's 7 wins and 3 losses, or 4 wins and 1 loss.
Right. If you lose a single match in the best of 3 one,
you're out.
You're out.
So that can be kind of intense. But when you go to day 2, like it's not going to get any easier. So might as well get the hard one. The thing about this event is that you can enter as many times as you want.
Right. Which Wizards got a lot of flack for at first, and we probably should mention, if you're the type of person to oh, you get unlucky and you just get eliminated. Oh, that's okay. I'll just buy the $100 bundle and I'll enter again. It's probably best if you set some sort of I'm only going to enter twice.
This
kind
is
of thing.
this is
beforehand.
This is gonna be casino rules, I would say, where I'm going in with this number, and if I hit this number, I'm done and I'm walking away. Like you have to.
For example, I have 4,000 gems on my account. That gives me 2 entries. Or sorry, I have 2 entries worth of gems. So
yes,
I have 8,000 gems. Is that?
Yeah, 8,000 gems.
So I can enter twice, and if that's it, I'm not buying more gems to enter this.
Enter this thing, because the payout will be quite nice. It's actually in dollar value. You'll get like $2,000 if you are winning day 2 and things like that.
That's if you get to 7 wins on day 2. Yeah.
Which is great, but also, hey, like.
But honestly, I've played in this before. I played in. The last one was historic, and it was at a time when I wasn't quite into historic yet, so I didn't play in that. But the one before that was a standard one. I think that might have been the first one they did.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. I built this Esper deck. This was when, if you remember, the Luca Yorion deck was at the height of its power.
Yeah.
It was the most popular deck by far. And I just built this Esper control deck. We still had access to Fairy Time Raveler at that point. And so I joined this event. I said, hey, I think Esper's pretty good right now and nobody's playing it. Let me jump in. And at that point, you could only play best of 1. They didn't have an option for day 1 best of 3. And I spiked it. I just went 7-0 on my first jump in. Wow. I totally did not expect that at all. I was like, wow, maybe this deck is awesome. Jumped in the next day, 0-2. 0-2 and out on day 2. So my hubris got brought back down to mortal level.
Punch you right in the face.
I realized I just got lucky on the 7-0.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really cool to just have an event that you're playing for something. We should also mention that if you do well on day 2, you qualify for this championship we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just really cool to just have an arena tournament you can play, and it's arena style, first to this many wins or this many losses, whichever happens.
So you're used to that if you're playing draft. Then you like that already. Also, you do get an entry reward of a bunch of card styles of different rare cards or mythic rare cards that you like probably already. So that might be worth it to you as well.
I would say if you're having a great time playing standard on the ladder and you have, expendable gems to at least try 1 entry into this tournament,
or even gold. Like if you've been saving up your gold for something, this is
if you have the 20,000 gold.
If you have 20,000 gold, I am very jealous of you. And
we talked about gold to gem conversions last week. This is a good one.
This is a really good one. You get some great card styles, you get a good time, and maybe even actual money if you are in the elite. So yeah, I would say think about it. We'll definitely be talking about next week and what happens with it.
I know I'm going to play in it, so I can tell you all of my bad beats that are the reasons I didn't get the $2,000.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But with that, I will say that this is, we're coming to an end. So what is on deck? Our last thoughts are, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, you can also look for us on Arena. You might face against us. Our username is Arena Regulars Podcast, but beware, our deck might scare you.
Yeah, it might be a little bit spooky for you. Look at our spooky deck podcast, our spooky deck list on our different platforms, and tell us if you find something spookier than what we had said originally. Also, hello to our one listener. Hey, we're thinking about you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening.
Good night. All right, that's fine.